A professional athlete just said some of the most disgusting anti-gay, anti-trans bullshit I have ever heard. And so far, he has faced zero consequences. Like, his big money-making event is still set to take place, still at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, and it's still in 2 days. So, TikTok? It might be time to do your thing. Let me tell you why. This human thumb, Sean Strickland, yeah, the guy in the Women Belong in the Kitchen t-shirt, so original. He is an MMA fighter. And yesterday, MMA journalist Alexander Lee asked him about disgusting comments he had made in the past about the LGBTQ community. Specifically, that time that Strickland said if he had a gay son, it would mean he failed as a man. This seems like a guy who's super secure in his masculinity. Anyways, before Lee could even finish his question, Strickland launched into a gnarly tirade.
But when have you ever seen a UFC champion, George St. Pierre, or anybody else stick up for you guys? I can do it. I do it. I am not chasing the Chinese check mark of Nike. I don't give a about that. I care about you guys. I care about you guys being free. I care about you guys having freedom of speech. I give about you guys. And I'll tell you what, you guys are awesome, and I cannot wait for this man fucking go to war for you guys. Let's go.
So that was a reaction from that wannabe TikTok influencer about Sean Strickland's comments at the UFC event. And I feel the need to revisit this again because it's going to show you how the people of Canada really feel about Justin Trudeau. The fights were held last night in Canada. Unfortunately, Sean Strickland lost a split decision, but that doesn't matter. He still was a champion, he's still going to fight again, and he's still going to speak his mind the way he sees fit. He's not going to be baited by woke reporters or, again, wannabe influencers on social media. So just to refresh your memory, I want to show you what Strickland had to say and why that TikToker said what she said, and then we'll get more into it.
About how you have so much respect from your teammates, from peers. You said you've had great interaction with fans pretty much all the time. I did want to ask, you're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like, yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like, if you ask him, motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business. He voted for Biden.
Sean,
so hey,
Sean, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
Sure.
All right.
That's what it's got to be. It's got to be. We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said if I had a gay son, I would think I'd.
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and some would say.
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse?
Are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is the part. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak man, dude. You're part of the problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just pathetic. And the fact that you have no backbone and has he shut down your country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that? Go yourself. Move the on, man.
So that were his comments when asked a ridiculous question at a press conference for a championship fight. The question had no place there. It had nothing to do with the fights. It was asked strictly to bait Strickland because these woke reporters know how Strickland feels about certain things, and he speaks his mind. He knew it was going to trigger people. But the funny part is, again, the fights were held in Canada, okay? The crowd, Canadian, mostly, of course, broke into chants of F Trudeau, fuck Trudeau, because they know Trudeau is a wannabe dictator like Joe Biden is in America. And the fans don't care. They know they're being screwed. They know their freedom and liberties are being taken away by a woke leader. They've had enough. And Joe Rogan and one of his shows had a clip of it, And I just want to show it to you so you can hear what the crowd was saying. Excuse me, what the crowd was saying.
Young Jamie. Fuck Trudeau.
I was at the UFC.
Yelling, fuck Trudeau.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
That guy's
Canada,
a piece of shit.
Canada, get your shit together. Come back. Come back to what you used to be. That Pierre Poilievre guy, however you say his name, that guy makes sense.
He's also Fidel Castro's kid. We know. I'm not a big conspiracy guy. Come on, Eddie, back me up on this. Educate him.
It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy.
He looks
his
a
mom
lot like
crazy.
Castro.
Look at
His
the
mom.
But here's the thing.
Thank you, sir.
Realistically, I've looked at this. He also looks like his dad. His dad looks like Castro. His dad's very similar in facial structure to Castro.
But explain the mom going to
hanging
Cuba.
out, and he's got
9 months
why it's
before
fun.
Fidel's holding him. Going,
That's why it's fun. That's why it's a fun theory.
And she's on the flight logs
Listen,
so many times.
This could all
by
be
herself.
solved with a very simple DNA test. With if I would do, if someone was accusing my dad of being Castro, if someone said, "Hey, your grandfather was Mussolini," I'd be like, "No, what are you talking about?" Yeah, look, your grandma fucked Mussolini. You think your grampy, the guy that used to take you fishing, you think that was your grandfather? No, your grandfather was Mussolini. I'd be like, no. I would have to find
and then
out.
they showed you a
DNA.
picture.
Find out.
Then they showed you a picture of Mussolini holding you. You'd be like, "Oh shit, it's looking pretty great."
So yes, people are tired. People are tired of these so-called leaders doing what they think is right for the people, when the majority of the people know everything they're doing is wrong. Everything they're doing is hurting the country. Right now, Canada is more woke than the United States. Joe Biden wants the United States to be as woke as Canada. I believe Canadians have had bank accounts seized by Trudeau for believing in one thing or another. I don't know that to be true. I've read it, I've heard it, so don't quote me on it, but I believe it to be true. Justin Trudeau doesn't want his own citizens to even be able to buy a handgun. You can't trade handguns. You can't privately sell handguns. Quite frankly, it's almost impossible to obtain a firearm in the country of Canada because Trudeau has to bow down to all these anti-gun wokeness that we see all over the United States also. This is wrong. What these leaders fail to understand that people have freedoms, and the biggest freedom that we have is freedom of speech. Okay? Why can't we say what we're thinking, regardless if it's going to trigger or offend somebody? Words are words. And if the wokeness can't deal with it, so be it. Move on. This is a free society, okay? They want to take away your rights to speak your mind, just like that TikToker was all bent out of shape and melting down because Sean Strickland had some certain things to say about the LGBs and the TQs. But what they also fail to understand is Strickland supports that community. He's not against them. He just doesn't want it shoved down his throat. But these people just refuse to understand that. So after the fights, they had the post-fight press conference, and Dana White was at the podium, and he was asked some ridiculous questions. And here's what he had to say.
Consider going to those guys and saying, hey, this might be the one time you need to tone it down.
This might be the one time you need to what?
Tone it down, the trash talk.
I don't tell anybody to do anything. I don't try to control any other human beings in any way, shape, or form. They do it this. I say it all the time. We're in the fight business, and if you get your feelings hurt that bad, you probably shouldn't ask the type of questions when you know the answer you're going to get from Strickland. Let's start there. You know what I mean? If you ask him, you know who he is, and if you ask him a certain question, he was baited in that question.
I'm not. Sorry, my mistake. Not referring to that question. Just Strickland got a little.
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
I know what you asked me. It is what it is. It's the fight business, man.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
Like...
Free speech. Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people... I don't fucking tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any... We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a shit what Sean Strickland thinks or what he says or what his beliefs are or what his opinions are. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
And there you have it. The president of the UFC, just like I said in the other episode I did about Strickland, Dana White does not and will never tell his fighters what they can or cannot say. The reporter said you have a long leash on them. And White was offended because he should be. He's like, leash? I don't have a leash on anybody. These people have their own minds and their own opinions, and they are free to say what they want. And he did note that the reporter who baited Strickland with that question knew all about Strickland. He knew how he felt, but he insisted on asking it because he knew he was going to get a response like that. So they could blow it out of proportion and say Strickland is homophobic or transphobic, which is absolute nonsense. And then you'll notice at the end of that clip, Dana White said there were two gay women featured in the co-main event, and they were up at the podium at the press conference when Strickland went off on the woke reporter the first time, and they could give a shit what Strickland had to say because they believe in free speech. You're gay, you're lesbian, you're trans, whatever you call yourself, no one cares. And the two women who fought happened to be gay. They could care less because they're not part of the woke gay or lesbian or trans crowd. They're not trying to push an agenda on anybody because everyone should agree with it. They live their lives the way they choose to. But you can't tell that to most of these woke liberals, the reporters who want to spew their nonsense, spew their hate, and accuse people of being homophobic or transphobic or what have you. This is absolute nonsense, but this just proves that us in the United States, we're not the only ones dealing with this. Canada's dealing with it only on a higher level, I believe, because Trudeau is 10 times or more worse than Joe Biden. But if Joe Biden had his way, don't you think he wouldn't seize your bank accounts or try to do something else to you for words you said because, God forbid, you offend somebody or trigger somebody? Freedom of speech. Say what you want, have an opinion, and move on. If the woke people of the world don't like it, I'm sorry. You can go be triggered and shed a tear somewhere. I'm just going to continue on with my life because that's what a free society is all about. It's not criminal. You're not saying it purposely. You're saying what's on your mind and you're saying how you feel about certain subjects. And these people, these politicians, the reporters, all the fools that want to jump on board this mess need to understand that they may get triggered or offended by somebody's words, but they're only words. Get over yourself and let's move on to something else.